Hello, humans. Today we are doing Final Fantasy TCG's Wind deck. Wind. The initial concept for the Wind that I was aiming for was Archers and Thieves, and I jokingly called it a Robin Hood deck. Or at least that's what it was going to be. What it actually became is Archers, Thieves, and the whole damn thing got taken over by dancers. Yes, it legit got taken over by dancers. Now, moving on to the cards in the deck, starting with the forwards, 3 copies of Dancer from Final Fantasy XI. There's 3 copies of Sniper from Final Fantasy Tactics A2, Grimoire of the Rift. There's 1 copy of Archer from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. There's 3 copies of Sid Highwind from 7. 3 copies of Thief. I think this one was Angus. I forgot what his name was. I gotta re-look them up. From 3. Remember there's Angus, Lunith, and Refia. What's it now? Either way. 3 copies of Matoya. There's 3 copies of a 1-cost Thief. This one, Final Fantasy, the Tactics, the original Tactics. There's 3 copies of Penelo. Except this Penelo is from Tactics Advance A2. 3 copies of Dancer from 11. 3 copies of Thief. This one is, I think, Lunith. 3 more copies of Dancer from 14. And she is a major game changer, a major player. And then 3 copies of Dancer from 5. I think this one is Bart. I forgot. I really need to do more research on these characters. So, on to the backups. There is 1 copy of Archer from Tactics Advance. There is 3 copies of Thief from 5. There's 3 copies of Dancer. Yes, the backup Dancer from Tactics. Yeah, she is the backup Dancer. There's 3 more copies of backup Thief from 5. And then there's another 3 copies of the backup Thief from Advance 2. So, Tactics A2. Grimoire of the Rift. And for summons is Self. The 12 version of Self. As for the side deck or cards that I have on the side that could go in, there's 3 copies of Archer, a 1-cost Archer. And it has First Strike. The other 2 copies of the backup Archer. 2 copies of the Tactics Archer. And another 2 copies of 14's Archer. These are the cards that I have on the side. The 3 archers was in the initial build, but with the dancers taking over, all these got taken out. You can do your build however you choose to, what you want to switch in and out, but moving back to the cards that are in the deck. Matoya. When Matoya enters the field, choose 1 forward. Its power becomes 4,000 until the end of the turn. Pay 2 win crystal points and 1 crystal point of any element. Put Matoya into the break zone, deal 4,000 damage to all the fort's opponent controls. You can only have 1 copy of her on the field at a time, but she is good for what she does. Moving on to the Dancer from 11. When Dancer enters the field, you may pay 1 win crystal point. When you do so, choose up to 3 characters, activate them. Once you receive 3 points of damage, dull 1 active job dancer or card named dancer. Choose 1 forward, it gains 1,000 power until the end of the turn. Sniper. When active sniper becomes dull, choose 1 forward opponent controls, deal it 4,000 damage. This card is good because at 8,000 power, I can attack. And if she does not die in that battle, yeah, I can burn something else. The 1 copy of Archer. Pay 2 win crystal points and dull this card. Put Archer into the break zone, choose 1 forward, deal it 10,000 damage. That's a lot of power. One, she costs 7, well, her base power is 7,000. But if you have a threat that does at least 7,000 or more, yeah, you can just use her effect, send her to the break zone. She will die in that clash, so at least you can take something out with her. Sid. When the forward that took damage from Sid is put from the field to the break zone, field into the break zone, on the same turn, your opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her deck into the break zone. High Wind. Drop a copy of this and dull this card. Your opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her deck into the break zone. This is one of the cards with the initial build when I was looking at Thieves and Archers. Yeah, Thieves do a lot of deck destruction. Similar to my ice deck, which does hands destruction. Yeah, let's move on to more of these Thieves. When Thief enters the field, your opponent puts the top card of his or her deck into the break zone. Moving on to another Thief. When Thief enters the field, your opponent puts the top card of his or her deck into the break zone. Yeah, are you starting to see where this is going? Because it just keeps getting worse. This one is the 4-cost Thief. There's the reason why I put 3 4-costers in this one. Well, 3 copies of the same 4-cost. When this card is put from your... when a card is put from your opponent's deck into the break zone, Thief gains 2,000 power until the end of the turn. When Thief attacks, your opponent puts the top card of his or her deck to the break zone. This thing has 7,000 power. As soon as I choose it to attack, put the top card from your deck to the break zone, it jumps up to 9,000 in that battle. Yeah. But I still got a couple other Dancer forwards to go through. Penelo. At the end of each of your turns, deal 1,000 damage for each card you have cast this turn to all forwards your opponent controls. Dull 1 active job dancer or card named dancer other than Penelo. Choose 1 forward, its power becomes 4,000 until the end of the turn. Yeah, there's a reason why they specify other than Penelo. And it has to be a forward, but that's still bearable. That's where this dancer comes in. At the end of each of your turns, if dancer is dulled, deal 2,000 damage to all forwards opponent controls. Pay 1 crystal point, dull this card, all forwards you control gain 1,000 power until the end of the turn. Yeah, you can have 3 copies of this on the field. Use its secondary ability. Or if you can use the secondary ability on all of these, your forwards will gain 3,000 power. And at the end of your turn, you're doing 6,000 to their entire board. And the last forward, the dancer that does the most. She literally does the most. Though this card, deal 1,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. If you control 7 or more wind characters, deal 4,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls instead. Yeah. You got 7 wind characters on the field. I'm sweeping for 12 grand. Keep in mind, this is a pure wind deck. Outside of the 3 summons, there's 47 wind characters. Yeah, that's not going to be hard to do. It just takes time. Moving on to the backups. Archer. Pay 1 wind crystal point and dull this card. Put Archer into the break zone. Choose 1 forward opponent controls. During this turn, the next damage it deals to a forward becomes 0 instead. Thief. Pay 1 wind crystal point and 1 crystal point of any element. Dull this card. Put Thief into the break zone. Your opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her deck and into the break zone. Once again, thieves. Yeah, we're screwing your deck over. Not your hand, but your deck. Another Thief backup. Pay 1 wind crystal point. Dull this card. Put Thief into the break zone. Your opponent reveals his or her hand. Select 1 character card from their hand. Your opponent discards this card. You can only use this ability during your turn. If anyone watching this also plays Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is like a one-sided drag down from the grave. Because your hand is still safe. Oh yeah, I did forget one of the forwards. Thief. Put Thief into the break zone. Well, pay 2 wind crystal points and dull this card. Put Thief into the break zone. Your opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her deck into the break zone. If both cards are of the same element, draw 1 card. That's the other reason why I got 3 copies of her in it. Not to mention, yeah, I'm going to be putting these into the break zone anyways. Might as well get something good from them. As for the backups that stays on the field, the 3 copies of Dancer, dull this card. No crystal points are being paid, but dull this card. Deal 1,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. These dancers took over this deck for a reason. Also, there's the forward that I forgot to mention is a 1-cost dancer. Forward, dull this card without paying crystal points. Deal 1,000 damage to all forwards opponent controls. The three dancer backups. The forward. This is another forward. This is another forward. This is another forward. Yeah, all these do is just, yeah, we're going to burn you while the thieves get rid of the deck. And for the 3 self summons. EX Burst. Choose 1 forward, deal it 3,000 damage, draw 1 card. Pair that with Pinello. Yeah, for each card I cast, yeah, cast a card, which can be the summon, dull or active job dancer, or card named dancer. This power becomes 4,000. So, yeah, Doing that alone, play self. Yeah, okay. You're now 4,000. You just took 3. If you can't increase your power at all this turn, that one's gone. To go into details about what these do, once again, yeah, a 1 cost with 3,000 power in first strike. That's the reason why I put 3 of them in there. And they're pretty cheap costers. There's 2 more of these. This Archer. Pay to win crystal points. Dull this card. Put Archer to the break zone. Choose 1 backup of cost 3 or less. Break it. Really, really good. And then there's the Archer from 14. When Archer enters the field, deal 1,000 damage to all 4 its opponent controls. Pay 1 win crystal point. Dull this card. Put Archer to the break zone. Deal 2,000 damage to all the 4 its opponent's controls. This is a card that is best played later, but at the same time, if you have it on the field early game, you can not only have 3 copies of it, which I'm surprised I don't have. I think I got the 3rd one inside of the box. But I can easily sacrifice this to potentially sweep a board. This has been the Wind Deck Profile. Archers, thieves, and a whole lot of dancers that will burn you.